So, Dane, I was thinking about going to a little place called Crystal Lake and murdering some teenagers while they're having sex. What do you think?
Sounds like that's been done before.
A couple of times, about 27,000 times.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Seems familiar.
If you're a fan of hockey and you like masks and you just really can't stand teenagers, tonight's the night for you.
It is.
And if you haven't figured it out, we're recording on Friday the 13th. Happy Friday the 13th. Avoid any black cats and don't go near any lakes that killed a very disformed young child. Anyway, Dane, on a happier note, I was thinking the meme destruction section should be eat this, which is my credit score.
Yeah, it's not good for you, is it?
Classics in general, they're full of that T word that causes
it's
testicular shrinkage.
Got to be better than the mental marginal that thought this was a very profound tweet.
Oh, well, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
And DiCaprio's coming with us.
Get there when we get there.
Stay tuned. Culture Corner. Harvard's forward thinking is slightly backwards to me.
Yeah, pretty twisted.
Anywho, Epstein. Big Pharma gives you a shot to fix the shot they gave you to fix the disease they actually made that shut down the world.
Sounds about right.
Thank you.
The math is mathing on that.
Thank you. Anywho, and the main topic, of course, is Biden's little faux pas and oopsie daisies and bouquets and such, where he may or may not have planted them, but he still got the bouquet. So,
yeah, I mean, listen, all I know is no matter what happens, it's not his fault.
How could you blame him?
Ever.
He doesn't even know he's the president most of the time. Anyway, after all that, Dane, you want to jump in?
Let's do it. Welcome to Weapons of Meme Destruction Podcast, episode 129, which can be found at wmdpodcast.com/129. You can get the audio only on any podcast catcher. Just search Weapons of Meme Destruction. The video you can get on Rumble and Odyssey, just this one. Can't get it on YouTube because we're talking about the no-no topic again, which is kind of unfortunate because at last check on the last episode, 128, your boys was on and popping. We had, 400 plus, nearing 500 views on 128. That's nice. I don't know what we usually average, but it's a lot less than that. So, maybe we turned a corner with 128.
What would Gary Vee say?
Just in time to not follow it up with 129 on that particular platform.
Well, we're doing the douchebag thing. You give them a little, you take it away.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
they're going to be...
What's wrong with me? Like, I can do better. Just give me another chance, guy with the neck tattoo and a leather jacket and a motorcycle.
The good news is, I think in 128, we told them about why 127 wasn't on YouTube. So if that was their first episode for us, then when they're looking for 129, they'll know.
You know what we should do? We should put an EP.
Astute people follow this podcast.
It's an EPB. It's an EPB. All points blast. Yep, that's it.
APB?
That's what I said.
Not E?
That's what I said.
Last time I checked, all started with an A.
No, it's y'all. You didn't hear it correctly. Y'all! No, y'all! Anyway, an APB, that's right. I was like, there's something wrong. And I thought it was the PB portion, obviously, the A. Anyway, we should put an APB out that just says every time that we just go straight Rumble and Odyssey, that's where you find us.
Yeah. So, if you didn't pick it up from the intro before we jumped in, the Epstein segment is COVID related, and therefore we can't talk about that on YouTube because YouTube treats us like small fucking children.
Well, not to mention the CC, the Culture Corner, is kind of dabbling in that realm too.
Yeah, but we've never been canceled for that.
That is weird, though.
We've been canceled for the
We've been
the COVID
canceled
stuff.
for like, straight COVID, but never like
Yeah.
the sexuality things and like the
that's
fucking
small
literal-
potatoes right now.
the
okay?
literal minefield.
Listen,
Like, there's no
David.
money to be made in sexuality.
Exactly. There's money to
You
be
don't have
made.
to tell me.
Money talks and bullshit walks.
Don't quote the black book to me, which
Yes.
I was there.
So
when it was
anyway, before I get derailed anymore, Rumble and Odyssey only for the video on this one. So again, if you're finding us there, tell your YouTube only friends to come over there and join you there, and tell them that we'll be back on YouTube shortly when we don't talk about that subject in the near future. You can also link up with us on our non-podcast related but social media on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Facebook is paid members only, private Facebook group, and Float, which is the Facebook competitor. Did I miss anything?
Because this in Facebook.
Oh, we're also on Tribal and a couple
Rumble.
other sites. I already said Rumble.
Stumble.
Rumble's video.
Bumble. Are we on Bumble? Are we trying to hook up with other libertarian podcasts that identify as female?
Yes.
Because we identify as male.
That's right.
Hardcore. Real hard throbbing males.
So, with that being said, all the places to find us. Oh, number one, first and foremost, off the top, should have said this first. Join the email list at wdpodcast.com. Right there, up at the very top of the homepage. Join the email list. That is the most surefire, can't take it away from us.
Don't give us your real one. Give us your fake one. Give us the one that you send to all.
Why the fuck would you tell them
Because they'll check it every now and again.
We want the real one.
Because they'll check it every now and again, right? If you feel if you're subscription hesitant,
if they're joining the email list, they want to be in contact.
If you're subscription hesitant,
Jesus Christ,
it's
not like we bombard you with emails anyway. Not that matters, because why you're there is to make sure you always have contact with the show, no matter what happens to us, no matter which platform kicks us off.
And turn on notifications with whatever you're watching us on right now.
Notifications, subscribe, like, share, all the stuff.
Because the algorithm is super...
Jesus, this is taking way too fucking long.
Nonplussed with us.
Anyway, into the actual show.
Which we're going to keep to a brisk 25
hours.
Minutes.
Off we go like a herd of turtles.
To match the degrees outside, it's chilly.
Today's meme comes to us, it's, as we said, a memeception, because it is some dumb shit tweeted something, and then a dumb shit meme page shared the tweet as a meme, and then another dumb shit meme page shared that meme page's sharing of the tweet. What we have is a tweet that was shared by the Green New Deal Facebook page, which was shared by the other 98% repeat offenders on the show. And this tweet, as you can imagine from those pages that shared it, is going to be pretty brain dead. And very proud of it. Very proud of their ignorance they are over at those pages. And apparently this Gage, whoever tweeted this. And this tweet comes to us from July of 21. So it's a little bit late, but they're still sharing it 2 years later. Gage has this to say, quote, "We were literally," that's all. I'm going to pause right there. Literally is always the first sign of somebody that not a whole lot of marbles there.
Hold on.
There is a proper time and use for the word literally. It's not literally every sentence. You see what I did there?
I did. I did.
Anyway, do you have something to say before I finish the rest of the tweet?
How's that working out for you? Being clever.
Feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good.
That's a good boy.
Doesn't happen often.
All I was going to say is the same guy that says literally is the same guy that says, I'm not fucking with you. This actually happened. It's like, okay, here we go. Take me on a journey that I don't have to listen to or ever repeat ever again.
So back to the tweet, quote, "We were literally born onto a planet that grows food. How did we fuck up so bad that I got a credit score?" Now, if your IQ is above the double digits, you're probably thinking, that's so vacuous and vapid and stupid. Like, why? I know I just kind of, it was redundant. I said it the same thing multiple ways.
No,
just want to make sure everybody gets it.
You were going for the V for Vendetta thing.
I know. I needed a third V, but I didn't have it.
The vicissitudes of fate. This visage, no mere veneer vanity. Yeah,
great movie.
Check it out. We should have a watch
Anyway,
along for that.
We should. Maybe for the paid subscribers.
Maybe.
WDpodcast.com. Support our work.
Heartless.
Pay us some money. Anyway, you're probably thinking, who the fuck thinks, first of all, that is profound enough to tweet in the first place, let alone have multiple layers of memeception retweeted out, thinking that was like the wisest thing anybody's ever said since Socrates.
Check him out, bro.
So we just wanted to break this meme down real quick, short and sweet for you. First of all, if you have a fucked up credit score, I don't know who this we is unless you got a mouse in your pocket that fucked it up for you. Because last time I checked, that's on you, Captain. If you don't know how to manage money and you are a dumb shit that just thinks that little plastic card just buys you all your hopes and dreams for free and you're never going to have to pay it back or suffer any consequences, that one's kind of on you.
No, it's like a little miniature government in your pocket that like, I'm going to pay for it today and I'll wait for the consequences whenever. And I'll blame other people for it.
Second of all, this idea that, well, just food grows naturally on the planet. So like, what's the big deal? We ought to just be all walking through the Garden of Eden, just munching from this tree and that tree.
Well,
and
bitches fucked that up for us now, didn't they?
Not placing the blame
toxic masculinity.
there.
Toxic masculinity didn't bite the apple, did it?
Is that, yes, to be very literal, to be, well, perhaps too literal, as sometimes I have been accused, and rightly so of being, is, yes, okay, food does grow naturally on the planet. But, newsflash, not in sufficient quantities to feed about 8 billion of us. So in order to grow enough food to feed all of us, you're going to need a little bit of intellect, which again, if you think that this tweet is something really profound, you probably are sorely lacking in. And also a little bit of hard work. You know, that thing that is also sorely lacking in the cult of envy that is also known as socialism, which is, you know, where this whole thing is going. So I would suffice it to say that if this tweet really says something to you and they really made a really brilliant point about how far humanity has fallen, you probably aren't the one that's contributing to the global food supply sufficient to feed enough people. So maybe sit down, shut the fuck up, manage your money a little better so your credit isn't shit, and maybe just take a little bit of bite of humble pie and thank the people all over the world through hard work and innovation that provide for this beautiful existence that you have that has you living so far above subsistence. And yeah, did I say shut the fuck up? Okay, yeah, do that. Do more of that.
Okay, Dane, I have one question. Do iPhones grow on trees?
I believe so. I believe
they are apples after all.
That was the one.
They are apples. This guy plucked his iPhone 13 with 3 cameras from the tree of knowledge, and he's been just eating it up ever since. Oh my God. What if the Bible that was actually the apple that we took a bite out of? Because there's a bite taken out of that apple. There's a bite taken out of that apple.
Bro, you just conspiracy theoried the shit out of my shit.
We should put a trigger warning. We should put a trigger warning on it. Oh, I bet it was.
Bro,
I bet it was. Knowledge is the bite of knowledge. Boom.
Listen, we paid subscribers. We have not done a bonus episode in a while. I'm writing it down now because that was some top-notch shit.
That wasn't what
We're going to do a bonus episode just on that.
I didn't even
chopping it up about that.
I didn't even take any LSD tonight.
That was good. That was a nice connection.
No, but my point being is that with his grandiose conjecture, he forgot one simple caveat that throws his entire argument completely off, is that you can still do that. You have the option to go out into the wilderness, sans your iPhone, and build a log cabin, hunt deer, pick your berries and nuts. Be careful. Some of the berries, poisonous. And just live off the land if that's what you truly want to do. But I have my doubts that that's actually what you want to do. So shut the fuck up, play by the rules, pay your goddamn credit cards like a fucking adult, and enjoy this food that's brought to the local fucking grocery store and say thank you for once. Instead of saying what's wrong with everything else, be appreciative of the fact that it exists in the first place to make your life the best life that has been lived. Thus, we know thus far.
Without taking us too much further and not getting into the next segment, I'm reminded of the Louis C.K. stand-up where it's like people bitching about their phone while they're on a plane, and it's like,
he had
can you give
bit
it a
about
space,
this specifically.
or can you give it a second? It's going to space. You're literally soaring through the sky like a fucking Greek god, and you're pissed off that your phone doesn't have immediate, cell service. Like that is the reason why, as all good jokes have an element of truth to them, is the reason why that joke's so funny is because people like this exist.
He has a better one.
They look at all of the material wealth that's around them that has been accumulated over time by people being smart, innovating, by being frugal and saving their capital so they can invest it and create new technologies that are literal miracles to just a few generations ago. And they don't stop for 1 second and think, wow, how did this get here? I am so fucking lucky. Man, I'm grateful to be born at the time that I was, to have all of these, entrapments of modern civilization. This is beautiful. No, they're going to sit there and fucking bitch about on the technology that other people worked so hard to create, about how fucked up humanity is because there's credit scores now and that there just is an overwhelming abundance of food on the planet for all of us. It's just, these are the worst kind of people.
There's a better Louis C.K. joke that hits directly on this topic. He's like, if God came down and said, why are there oil on the ducks? It's like, well, I wanted to go fast. It's like, I put it in the ground. Why did you dig it down? Because I have a car and I don't want to walk, and walking's hard, so I gotta go. He's like, well, what is this? He's like, why are you so fat? He's like, I don't know. It's like, I've been eating a lot. He's like, well, why didn't you just eat the shit on the ground? I love shit. I'm murdering this joke, by the way. You should check it out. It's Louis C.K. He's kind of a famous person. Not for what he was
not allowed to be anymore.
He's not allowed to be, but he's still pretty funny. Anyway, so he's like, I left the shit on the ground. Just eat the shit on the ground. It's like, but it doesn't have bacon on it. I want it wrapped in like bacon. Anyway, so that's kind of the mentality. He was basically making fun of the mentality, which is what you were just saying.
Yeah.
Of you're never happy. It's always got to be better. And it's always got to go faster.
Yeah.
Until we're dead.
And isn't that funny how the people who act like that, it's always what they think, despite being completely ignorant and proud of it, that if everything was done the way they want it, then it would be utopia, right? And this is why that mentality attracts the politicians that become totalitarian regimes, because, right, only their way is the right way. And if you go against it, well, that's because you're just an evil, terrible person who probably should be exterminated. And then, fast forward 100 years to the 20th century and you got 200 people dead at the hands of their own government. But I digress. So, on to the Culture Corner segment. We have Harvard Medical School. Again, repeat offenders. If you remember a few...
Hold on. Harvard, is that like a public community college, or is that like a...
No, private, massive endowment,
like
supposed
one
to
of the
be smart
biggest
people.
One of the biggest, brightest, only the...
No, yeah, this is one of the premier medical schools in the world.
Oh.
Yeah, this is
just some hobnob in the middle of South Dakota, Minnesota border.
This isn't what's the Waterboy College?
Oh, fuck.
Southeast Louisiana State University.
Yeah, something like that. Let's go with that.
Yeah, it's not that. So Harvard, again, repeat offender, because if you remember a few episodes ago, I should have the number off the top of my head, but I don't. A few episodes ago, we talked about the Harvard Medical School published, I don't know if it was an article that was published or a professor was teaching, that fetuses in utero.
Jesus, you hit that pretty hard, didn't you? Fetuses!
I don't know if I hit it that hard.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's what I heard.
Fetuses in utero know they're transgender. If you remember when we covered that. Well, now Harvard is taking it the next step. Well, at least they've moved outside the womb now.
Oh.
Now they are teaching, I'm going to just read the title for you. Harvard Medical School offers course about healthcare for LGBTQIA+
Why stop there?
Infants,
Do the whole fucking alphabet, you losers.
which medically is defined as birth to 12 months old, infants, with curriculum offering lessons in areas including OBGYN, pediatrics, and plastic surgery. Now, one might think, other than an infant coming out with, a serious physical defect like, a cleft palate or something like that, where does plastic surgery fit into this whole thing unless you're doing what we're all thinking and chopping off baby parts because you're thinking, well, this infant popped out, knows that it's a girl, despite the fact that we can clearly see that it's a boy, or vice versa. And you just start going chopping off parts before the baby even knows what up from down.
Well, it's weird. This whole concept fails me at the point where, so that you said that they say that in utero, this child knows for a fact that they are the sexual identification LGBT
opposite of what their chromosomes tell them.
Correct.
Yeah.
They know. But they know that complex sexuality, but don't know how to use the fucking toilet.
Pretty much.
Can't walk yet. Can't even crawl. If you just set them on the floor, they'll... But they have these very complex issues figured out so directly.
Or as these people like to remind us, right? Gender is just a social construct. So these babies pop out knowing first of all, what a social construct is. And second of all, knowing which society they were born into.
Dane, can they say...
If this baby was born in Saudi Arabia, based on that society, it ain't coming out thinking that it's anything other than what it was born. But that baby not only knows what gender it is, it knows it was born in the United States or some other Western country that partakes in this nonsense, knows that it was born in that particular society for which gender is a social construct for which they know that they can switch at the drop of a hat.
And by the way,
it's amazing how
they can communicate all of this to us because they come out able to speak to us, right?
Yep. They come out pretty much doing graduate level dissertations. Yeah.
Hello, father. Oh, excuse me. Hello, birthing person 1. Hello, birthing person 2. I've come out as cisgender. I'm sure you're all relieved. I gave it a long thought.
Wait, cis is that they identify with what they were born with.
Right, exactly.
Okay. I'm
sure you're all... Can I finish my goddamn skit?
Sorry.
Before you interject, Lorne Michaels?
My bad.
Christ almighty. I'm sure you're all relieved that I've chosen this. But mind you this. I gave a long, hard, and throbbing thought to being transgender. Yes, father, that would have killed you, wouldn't it? Your young boy not being a quarterback for his high school football team. I shudder to think. And mother, that I wouldn't give you a wonderful daughter-in-law. How dare you? You should both be ashamed of yourselves. I'm moving on from this frivolous filth. Scene. Okay, now you can go, Dan.
Are you done real life, Stewie? Coming out talking like that?
I was going more like no, please, continue.
So, and the reason why this is in the culture corner, I mean, other than the obvious culture wars, is this is just another notch in the column of the kind of push towards global depopulation, right? And so when you hear things like this Malthusian concept of, well, there's too many damn people in this world and human beings are a cancer, they're a blight on this planet, and there's too many of us and we need to weed them down and all this kind of stuff. Think about all of these different policies which either shame or in other ways disincentivize having children. So obviously if you're switching the gender of children, whether it be now it seems like 10 is a ripe old age if they're doing it, right when they're born. But if you start chopping off baby parts right when they're born, well, guess what? And feeding them hormones opposite their gender, guess what? They're not going to be reproducing. Or when you think about this pushing women into this boss bitch mentality, right? Value your career over literally miracle that a woman can do with her body, which is create a brand new human life.
Oh,
It's much more important to go staple papers for 40 years than it is to have a child. Or this idea of toxic masculinity, right? We want to make men completely, separate and apart from women and stay away from them, and they're terrible. Down with heterosexuality, up with everything but heterosexuality. Pollute the food supply, which has got testosterone levels in men at something like 40-year lows. And then, in less on the nose things, but it's not completely unrelated, completely destroying the money supply. Inflation through the roof, because if you barely have the money to feed yourself, you ain't going to have that much money to feed children, right? So when all of these policies seem to be pushing in one particular direction, disincentivizing procreation, that's not a coincidence. That's not by chance. And this is why the culture wars matter. I see a lot of libertarians and conservatives be like, oh, well, I hate it. I like it when this politician does, like they say this about DeSantis. I like it when he does COVID stuff, but I don't like it when he gets into the culture wars. The culture wars matter because there are people out there in high positions of power. I'm looking at you, World Economic Forum, who look at human beings like parasites to be eradicated. And that is a very, very dangerous ideology because that's not far from train cars. And these people have a lot of power. And if they can't do it violently like that, they're going to subvert society with methods like this to try to make it difficult or in some cases impossible to procreate. And that's not a world that any one of us want to live in. Have you guys seen The Handmaid's Tale lately? Sorry, David.
Are they paying us for this episode?
Who?
The Handmaid's Tale?
No, I'm just thinking about...
Why are you giving out free promo?
I'm not.
To 300,000
I'm making fun of the women on the abortion issue that think they're really being cheeky by dressing in their Handmaid's Tale without paying attention to the whole reason for why that dystopian society happened.
In the interest of parlaying onto that, seeing humans as numbers instead of an actual human, and because it's really easy to see from your ivory tower, oh, we can just sacrifice that swath of them over there so that this swath will push in and succeed. Yes, indeed. That's called warfare. Or we can sacrifice this amount of the population to save this amount of the population because that's just for the good of the whole. They're never leading from the front, which reminds me of another segment. Oh, Big Pharma. That parlays right into our Epstein didn't kill himself phase, which is that Big Pharma is now starting to see and maybe even possibly see somebody else that's going into anaphylactic shock. Like here, that's the disconnect between their narrative and what's actually happening. That's my whole point. That's my diatribe. Dwindled down to a nutshell.
Now, in terms of them using very broad brushstrokes to mean the people that rule our lives, not caring about us, as we said in last week's episode, pay attention to what they do care about versus what they don't. And for that, I'm referring to the topic for the main part of this episode, the recent news story this week, the second week of January, 2023, that Biden, much like his former opponent last August, was found to have classified documents in his possession, which he should not have had. Orange Man was a very bad boy. Well, now has been discovered that Biden is in the exact same boat. Because at first, earlier in the week, which is when I started pulling articles for the show, Biden had something like 10 documents or so in a office in Washington, D.C., which is, I want to say it was like the Penn Biden Center for whatever. It was like a think tank that Biden was trying to set up to work on like foreign policy issues. Because, Biden's the real guru on foreign policy, let me tell you. So anyway, he had 10 or so documents in an office or in a locked office closet. And as you can imagine, despite the fact that this being very eerily similar to what Trump was just raked over the coals for last August 2022, just a few months ago, the Biden apologists came out of the woodworks right away.
They didn't defend it, though.
It wasn't even 24 hours. I was reading articles about this Biden thing is not nearly the same thing as Trump and da-da-da-da-da. And they have all their red herrings to toss out to make sure that you don't focus on the key factor that, as they said during the Trump situation, doesn't matter that he was a former president. He had documents illegally in his possession, which, if they fell into the wrong hands, could cause some serious problems for the United States national security. That's it. Period. Full stop. There was no number of documents that mattered. There was no how did they get there? Did Trump declassify them before he took them, as is his prerogative as president, whereas the vice president doesn't have that prerogative and yet still had documents. But let's not focus too much on that. Let's just focus on, did they have classified documents? Were they not supposed to have those classified documents? And in having them, was a crime committed? That's it. It doesn't matter if it's 1 or 10,001. A crime was committed if those facts are true. And yet the Biden apologists have come out of the woodwork this week to the surprise of precisely nobody.
Come on, Dane. We used to believe in this country that treason was treason. But now we know, because we're so intellectually savvy, that he only committed a little bit of treason. He didn't even block the investigation on him. Granted, he didn't know that there was an investigation because he was too busy watching Sesame Street. But the point is that he only dabbled in treason. Trump was bathing in it. Yeah. He had 320 some odd documents that he shouldn't have had.
Ooh.
Right?
So many. Because everybody knows that the quantity is more important than the quality.
And as we all know, it always trickles down from the top. So, like, the next time you kill somebody, make sure they're a smoker. Okay? So, he was killing himself. He was already smoking. He enjoyed a cigarette. He was going to get lung cancer. He was definitely compromising his lungs. I didn't commit murder. I accelerated lung cancer. Not guilty.
Well, and here's the thing that infuriates me so much about that point in particular of saying, well, Biden was only 10 and Trump's, but the story developed throughout the week, which we'll get to in a second. But just focusing on that early in the week kind of excuse making is, well, Biden only had 10 and Trump had hundreds, whatever. if you'll recall, at the time that the Trump situation happened, there was a lot of speculation going around before anybody knew anything. And we're going to get to also people not knowing things here in a second. There's a lot of speculation going around that, oh, I bet in those Trump documents, there's probably like launch codes and like nukes are going to start going off at any time, right? You remember all that speculation? Well, I'm pretty sure, I mean, I don't know how long a string of letters and numbers a launch code needs to be. I'm pretty sure you could probably fit multiple launch codes on a single piece of paper. So when they were speculating about that, about what was in Trump's documents, don't you think that if that was actually turned out to be true and that was in the documents that Trump had, that we would have heard about that, which probably suggests to you that maybe it wasn't? And yet before anybody knew anything about what was in the only 10 from Biden, well, what if, again, speculate for Trump, speculate for Biden, if you're being an unbiased news source, what if only one of those 10 papers has exactly that thing that was going to be the worst thing that Trump could have possibly possessed? It would have been possible. It would have been possible at the time that this Washington Post article entitled, oh shit, it's behind a paywall. I can't see the title. Well, I saw it at one point in time. But at the time that the Washington Post published this article about the Trump document situation is so much worse than Biden, right? And the guy admits in the article, he says, well, it's so much worse. We don't know anything about what's in the Biden papers. But what we do know is that the Trump's is worse, even though we don't know that about Biden. It's odd how that works, right? But, in these people's minds, that makes a whole lot of sense. So I just, that's the whole thing that drives me the most insane about just focusing on the number of 10 versus 300. You can fit a lot of nuclear launch codes on one piece of paper, let alone 10.
Here's the thing, that these same places, Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, they all tout themselves as the real news. If you were the real news, you would be all over Biden. Right now. Right now, you'd be lighting Biden up. You'd be saying the vaccines are shit, they're causing myocarditis, and that Biden did the same thing as Trump. We shouldn't reelect him. We want justice now. Go ahead, Dane. You seem to have things to say about this.
No. So what I was getting ready to say is, yeah, it's really sad that going to those mainstream articles or in those mainstream publications that you can't get anything remotely resembling unbiased truth and just general basic principles of honest journalism, and you got to come to independent media sources like this. This is the reason why Joe Rogan is the biggest media platform on the planet, is because if nothing else, they know he's not trying to feed them a line of bullshit. It's his opinion, which they may agree or disagree with, but they know they're getting the honest, unvarnished Joe that is going to do his best, as all biased humans are, do his best to play at as level as he possibly can. And that's what we're trying to do here as well.
And you want to know why? Because his monetary gain is that you trust him. Their monetary gain is who's paying them for their advertising. Straight up. That's why their system is failing. That's why they attacked him so much, is that these independent, and it's not just Joe, obviously. It's is it The Hill or no? Is the Breaking Points with Sagar and Crystal or Kristen? It's Tim Pool's podcast. It's like, it's going to Substack.
I was going to say The Hill is still.
It's like, well, you have your opinion of it.
It's still mainstream mouthpiece stuff.
But it's still an independent thing.
It's not Joe and Tim and us and stuff like that. Right. It's not brand.
Understood, but it's still, they're doing their own thing. Like it's not fucking Don Lemon saying that all white people are racist at 6 p.m. on a fucking Wednesday night.
To be fair, few people are Don Lemon, thank God. They all have their own little flavor of bullshit. He's
trying to stand back up with the women's soccer team versus the men's, but
I did see that.
I digress. Anywho. back to you.
But anyway, this article, this Washington Post, which again, I'm still going to link to it, hoping it, because it wasn't behind a paywall.
It was behind
before.
a paywall for
it is,
me earlier, so
it is now. But anyway, so
maybe they don't want you to figure out.
The guy spends precisely zero time discussing the Biden documents. He just spends 3/4 of the article rehashing everything that they said last August about Trump, as if we all have the memory of a goldfish and forgot. And then the funniest part about the whole thing, in addition to saying we don't know anything about the Biden documents, but we know it's not as bad as Trump's, is he has a funny little admission in there where he says at the end, he says, quote, "There was no effort by Biden to argue publicly that he had given the government everything it wanted, even though he hadn't. In fact, there's no indication the government was even looking for these documents in the first place." End quote. Well, you just gave up the whole game, buddy. The fact that they're not looking at him is the whole game. They don't look at the ones that are doing their bidding for them. And an interesting little caveat, little theory on that here in a second. Like, that's the whole thing. That doesn't show that you're unbiased and objective by saying, well, the government wasn't looking at him. No fucking shit, Sherlock. The government hasn't been looking at him or his family for decades, despite the fact that they should have been. Remember his son's laptop in the 2020 election? Or how about just even this instance? I just found out today, after a week of reporting, do you know when these first sets of documents were actually discovered, the ones that were in his office in the locked closet? Where did I write it? I wrote it down here somewhere. On November 2nd, 2022.
I remember that from the fucking pre-roll.
If you're doing the quick maths.
Would you try to be professional?
I'm sorry. That is 6 days before the midterm elections. Now, if you remember, his son's laptop story was also suppressed before the 2020 election because that might have an impact on those elections. And it's still
suppressed to this day.
And
it's still suppressed.
Independent media source covered for you before these midterms about how Biden was colluding with a foreign power in Saudi Arabia, trying to get them to turn the oil pumps back on so that he could lower gas prices and influence the midterms in that way. And then they also apparently suppressed this, or at least refused to talk about it until after these past midterms. And I'm supposed to expect from all of that non-looking at Biden that means that he's not doing anything wrong? That even if he does do something wrong, it's not as bad as Orange Man bad? I mean, again, you don't have to become a Trump apologist to point out the fact that this is an equally bad thing that they did, and that if you're going to lynch somebody for doing it, you got to do the same thing to the other guy. Well, that's all we're saying.
Here, Dane.
Call the balls and strikes fairly. That's it.
I posit to you, and this might be where we should end this episode, is like, where does this go? It doesn't lead back to there being two very worthy candidates, does it? Because how are you going to get how is everybody going to pay attention to these media cycles anymore when we get two 50-year-old relatively idealistic, relatively centered politicians running for this office known as presidency? Where do these stories come from then? The people that haven't been in the game for fucking 40 years before they run for goddamn office, and they have every amount of blackmail on them. People that can actually formulate a sentence without it having to be written and then rewritten and then bold and then put it into the colors that they prefer on the teleprompter for them to get it right. Like, when do we go back to a president being a president? And I mean, from what I'm seeing here, and I don't want to be the cynic here, but like, it almost makes more sense for them, for the media, for the whole aperture of what is identified as Washington, D.C. and Capitol Hill and all that good stuff. It almost makes more sense to put more rickety, senile, bought and paid for politicians there, so that the other side can always point out the things that they're doing and say, no, how dare you? And then vice versa, the other side points out all the things the other side is doing, go, no, how dare you? You're evil. But then the same mechanism keeps working the same way it has been since it's been selling off our rights and privileges and all of our hard work and fiscal earnings since 1939, roughly? Was that the dawn of the military industrial complex, or was it after that?
After that, I mean, Ike warned about it when he was leaving office in, what was that, 60? So 59 or 60.
And then Roosevelt.
Yeah, and then Kennedy was shot over.
And then, no. Reagan. Reagan was talking about it in his speech when he was leaving office. So it's there. Every time they're leaving, they're like, hey, there's some shit going on, Doc. And how long, I mean, what is the cost, to steal another Batman quote, what is the cost for your blind eye? Like, how long are you just going to go, I just don't have time for that. I got to raise my kids. I got to do that. Well, you're raising your kid to go into it's not a utopia. You're raising your kid to go into the world that you set for him. You're striving for a world that doesn't exist right now. Because if this keeps going this direction, you're burning the candle at both ends at this point. You're not even adhering to sense. Go back to Culture Corner and the meme destruction and Epstein. There was no logic within any of those things that we purposefully destroyed on this. And then you go to Biden, and they can't even call a strike for the other team. Oh, he just did treason a little bit. We can forgive him for that. He's been in fucking DC since when? 1980 something? 5? 7?
Before that, 70s.
He was in the 70s? He's been there for fucking ages. You don't think this dumb motherfucker has directed where this country is going? And has made huge amounts of profits and isn't bought and paid for by everybody that's in DC? Jesus Christ, if you truly think that, then I guess make sure your homework's done and drink your warm glass of milk, because you got to wake up at 7:30 tomorrow to go back to second grade. I don't know what to tell you. If you truly are that naive, then I hope Santa brought you something wonderful for Christmas, and the Easter Bunny's right around the corner. So don't hold out. Other than that, for all the people that don't understand what I'm saying, that know that all those things aren't real, this is reality. This is how it works.
Well, unfortunately for those who wrote articles like the Washington Post when the story originally broke on January 10th, just a couple days later, on January 12th, yesterday, we learned that there were more classified documents found in more places, this time not a locked cabinet in his office, but in his garage next to his Corvette.
He meant to put it there. He just forgot that he was carrying it and set it down.
And at his house in Delaware. And, he was indignant when he was questioned by Peter Doocy from Fox about, what were you thinking? Why were these documents just in a box next to your Corvette in your garage? And he's like, well, my garage is locked, Peter. There's not like they're out there in the street, something to that effect, because, when your hand's caught in the cookie jar, I guess get incensed, get answer with righteous indignation, which you have no right to. But again, the macro of the whole thing is obviously the media bias, which again, it's beating a dead horse at this point. Everybody knows about the media bias, and it is what it is. And that's why independent media like yours truly are growing, and we appreciate your efforts to help us grow. But to just tie this little baby up with a potential conspiracy theory, right? Because we're already lumped into that camp as far as the thought and speech controllers would probably tell you about us, is let's just throw a little red meat out there and see what happens. I'm of the mind that, well, why are his handlers that have been running cover for him basically since he was VP to get him to this point, why are they not continuing to cover up this stuff now? And I think it is because he's made clear over the past couple months when people ask him, are you going to run in 24? And he's made clear that he has every intention to. And what I think is that the shot callers in his party don't want him to, and they're not going to let him. So when he says, I'm running, and they say, you ain't running, they have every incentive to just not to do as one Democratic representative said that, these were probably planted, which again, convenient. Nobody had that argument for Trump, but excuses for Biden. But not saying that the controllers in the Democratic Party would necessarily plant it. I'm not saying that they would be above that, but just to say that if they knew about this information since before the midterms and didn't let it out when they needed enough Democrats to win so there wasn't a red wave, why let it out now? Well, because they want to torpedo him and make sure that he doesn't get in for 24 because they have other people in mind. Well, they're doing it
early enough so people can forget by the time they get to the ballot box.
Maybe not. Yeah. I mean, that's an equally plausible explanation. Get it out of the way now. Again, the collective memory of the American people is water soluble.
But why do we hear about this and not the thing that they've been investigating for the better part of 2 years now?
What, his son's laptop?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I feel like as far as they're concerned, that ship has sailed. And they need to stick something to him
all they have to
in
do
particular. Because what
just keep throwing
what was the excuse
the
with the Hunter laptop is, well, that's just Hunter. That's not his dad, despite the fact that he refers to his dad as Pedo Pete and talks about the big guy and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah,
right, but this is much more direct. This is like Biden had documents.
Himself.
Yes.
Right.
So anyway, kick that one around, spitballing that one out there.
Introduce it to your friends. Just say, hey, did you know?
Yeah, it's like weapons of mass destruction is like the gateway drug to.
If you have too many friends and you want to dwindle some down, just bring this topic up with them. See what they think about it. But Dane, with all that being said, with all that cheeriness, where can they find this episode of Meme Destruction?
They can find this episode at wndpodcast.com/129. They can get the audio only on any podcast catcher. Just search weapons of meme destruction. And you know what? Mid-episode, I came up with an idea. I don't know why I didn't think about this sooner. I came up with an idea to get this episode on YouTube. And I think what we're going to do moving forward, nameless, faceless video guy who we very much don't like. What we'll do with these types of episodes, since it's only one segment that is possibly cancelable, we will put this episode on YouTube. And during that segment, you're just going to block it out. No audio. No visual, nothing. Just put up a black screen.
You came up with that idea?
Well, I don't know. Did you say it or something?
I said just cut that segment out.
No, don't cut it out. I want it to stay in, and I want the text to read over the black screen. Because I want the text to read that says like YouTube won't allow us to say this part.
Okay, now that's smarter.
That's what
I'm saying.
If
you put the text in, it makes it smarter. If you just black screen it, people are like, the fuck's going on with this goddamn YouTube? I gotta restart my phone.
Black screen it and say, this is something to the effect of, this is a segment that YouTube won't let us talk about. You can get it over on Rumble, Odyssey, yada, yada, yada. Let the people know where they can get it. But still, they get to see the rest of the episode if YouTube is their platform of choice. As we learned on episode 128, a lot of people, that is their platform of choice.
Stop it.
Not trying to jinx it.
Stop it.
Just, a little back patting. Anyway, so this will be up on YouTube, which you don't know that until now, this late in the episode, but that's how we're going to do it moving forward.
We're going to put this announcement at the beginning of it, and then it's going to be at the end of it too.
So anyway, YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey is where you can get this episode, and then you can also link up with us on our, still has like clips of the podcast, but not solely podcast dedicated, our other socials, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook only supporters page, and which you can find at support our work at wndpodcast.com to get into the sane space over there. And Float, we're also on Tribal, and yeah, that's it. Those are all the places that you can find us.
All the places, Dane?
There might be some other places. But
if you find us on TikTok or Instagram, I don't even know if you do this, just share the video, spread the word, and see how your followers dwindle.
Yeah, help Help a clip go viral. Every once in a
I'm
while.
more of a blood, and I'll say, so would it be, huh? You know what I'm saying?
Looks like you're
Anyway.
the Crip. I'm the blood.
I've got this. It's in the same shade as red, on the same spectrum at least. Anywho, before we get too divergent, stay safe, guys. And more importantly, stay free.